Hi besties, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Toby and I am a fiber artist and a cosplayer. I crochet anime themed cosplay, so I mostly make garments and props. You can find both free and paid patterns for my anime inspired pieces on Etsy and Ko-fi. I think that's how it's pronounced, Ko-fi. Yes, on both of these platforms. If you would like to support me, I will also be selling a written pattern for the Heart Smoke cigarette if you work better with written patterns. Link would be down below in the description box. And today I will be showing you how to make one of my props. If you did not know, I am a really big One Piece fan. I literally have like a, can you see it? I have Alabaster tattoo from One Piece. Today I will be teaching you how to make Sanji's cigarette. I cosplayed as him, one of my best boys, so I had to do him justice and I made a Heart Smoke cigarette. That's kind of what I'm calling it, and this is kind of how it looks. But yes, let's get into the tutorial. Enough yapping. These are the three different colors I'm using to make the cigarette today. Next thing is the wire. I'm using 1.2mm silver wire that I got from Amazon, but you can use any wire of your choice. I would also be using a 2mm hook. You will also need a pair of tin snips or something that you can use to cut the wire, and a pair of pliers to shape the wire before you put it into the cigarette and to shape the smoke of the cigarette when you finish making it. These are optional, but I just prefer using them since I have them anyways. Other materials we would need include a measuring tape, you would need a pair of scissors, and you would also need a tapestry needle or any needle just so that you can weave in your ends. So first we're going to be working on the base of the cigarette and we'll be using the wire to make this. It should end up looking like this when you're done. Kind of looks a bit weird, but it would all come together eventually. So first you are going to measure out 30 inches of wire. And then you're just going to cut that using your tin snips or whatever you would use to cut the wire. So now you should have 30 inches of wire cut off. And next we measure 14 inches of this wire, and you can just place your hand there just to kind of mark that point. And then what you're going to do is the remaining 16 inches, you just fold it so it ends up looking like that. And then going to twist them together. So when you are holding this to twist the wire, how I like to do it is I hold this tip here, the folded part, with my thumb and index finger, and then I use my thumb and my index finger of my dominant hand, which is my right hand, and I just twist the two wires together like that. And you just twist it all the way until you reach the end like that. When you are done, the twisted part should end up looking like this. And then you should also have this remaining 16-inch part that is not twisted, and we're just going to leave that for now. We're not going to be working with that at the moment. The next step is the part that is twisted, you're going to fold that in half, just like that. And then you're going to twist this together. So I'm just going to do the same thing of pinching the folded part at the top, and I'm just going to twist them together like that. If you are twisting it and the top part has a hole like this, what I like to do is use my pliers just to twist it here, just to kind of make that hole disappear. If it is not twisting, you can also just use the plier to push it together just to make that hole disappear. So you can see there isn't a hole now. When you are done, it should look like this. This will be the base of our cigarette. Just to help as well, when you are done, this part should measure 8.5 centimeters, and that should be the length of your cigarette. And then you obviously still have the long part of the wire, which is for the smoke, but we'll be working on that later. And now it's time to crochet the cigarette itself. We'll be using our white weight 2 cotton yarn and our 2mm hook. So we'll be starting with a magic circle. I know that people have different ways of making magic circles, and I know some people are also uncomfortable with making a magic circle. I'll show you how I make mine, and I'll also show you a different method as well. So how I make my magic circle is I use my thumb to hold the yarn, and you have a little bit dangling hair, and I wrap the yarn around my top 3 fingers so it looks like that. So I just zoomed out so you can actually see what I'm doing. So you're holding the yarn with your thumb, and then you wrap it around your top 3 fingers like this. So you have 2 of them on this side of your fingers, and you just turn your fingers like that. So you have it like this, and you have 2 of them, and you turn your fingers. And then you create an X and use your pinky to hold it like that. So it looks like this on this side, and it looks like this on the other side. And then using my hook, I insert it into this top yarn. And then the yarn that's closest to the rest of your arm is the one you're going to hook and pull underneath the first yarn, like that. So it's twisted. And then you're going to grab the same yarn that you twisted, and you're just going to pull that loop through the loop that's on the hook, like that, and you should have your magic circle. And when you pull the shorter length, the circle should close, and you can also use your 2 fingers to kind of widen the circle as well. Second method is you make a slip knot, chain 3, and then you slip stitch together. And you now have 3 chains. Next we're going to do a slip stitch. And you should have a very tiny circle. So you would be working, if you open this little circle, it's kind of hard to see, but there would be a very tiny gap right here. So that is where you'll be working your stitches into. And once we're finished the first round, all you have to do is pull the shorter yarn to tighten that circle once you've worked into it, and that's what you'll be working into. But I prefer to do a magic circle, so I'm just going to do that, and I will be back. Okay, so after making your magic circle, be chaining 1, and then you will work 6 single crochets into the circle that you have made. And now you have 6 single crochets. Now you're going to take your shorter yarn, just going to pull that to tighten the circle. And make sure you pull it as tight as you can, and it should end up looking like this. Whether you did a magic circle or you did the other method, it should end up looking like this. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch. And you've made a slip stitch and you have a teeny tiny circle. And this is how we start our cigarette. The next thing we are going to chain 1. And from now on, we'll be working in continuous rounds. So what that means is we would not be doing any more slip stitches or any more chains. We will just be single crocheting in the round continuously. So we're going to make 6 single crochet stitches for each row, and you're going to crochet for 2 more rows to give you a total of 3 rows. So, or you can just crochet 12 single crochets, which would give you a total of 18 single crochets and would give you 3 rows. By the time you finish the second row, so there should be 12 stitches, you should already see the cigarette kind of taking shape. So what I like to do is just kind of bend it so that the part that has the yarn is on the inside, so that way I can tuck that in. And while you are doing this, it is easy for you to add stitches, so make sure you are counting correctly. So I finished my third row and this is how it's looking now. So what I like to do at this stage is just shove the shorter yarn into this part here just to stuff it, and then cut off any excess yarn. I usually use the bottom of my crochet hook to do this. And once I feel like I have enough of that in there, I'm just going to cut off the excess yarn. I'm just shoving in the rest here. Done. And now we shall continue with our rounds. So we've already done 18 single crochets. And we need to do a total of 23 rows. So we have 20 rows left, which means that we are going to make 120 more single crochets. So I shall go make my 120 single crochets and I will see you back here. Okay, so I am halfway. I've done an extra 60 stitches. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take our wire and we're going to insert it into the cigarette. If you finish the cigarette first before inserting the wire, it wouldn't go all the way to the bottom. So we're going to just put this in here. It can be a bit fiddly, but trust me, it's much easier to do it now than when you finish the cigarette. And you're just going to make sure that it's pushed through so that it goes all the way in. And you can just pull the yarn as well, just to make sure it gets all the way to the bottom there. If the wire is not going all the way through to the tip here, what you can also do is just twist the crochet piece, just kind of like that, just until it reaches the bottom here. So I'm going to do the remaining of my 60 stitches I have left. I'm just going to continue to crochet around, but just working around the wire now. And I shall be back once I've done that. I finished my remaining 60 single crochets. You should have a little bit of folded wire left as we're going to do the tip of the cigarette. We're just going to cut off our white yarn and still leave this loop here just for now. And now we would be working with our grey yarn. To attach the grey yarn, so just loosen the last white stitch, and what we're going to do is redo the stitch. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, so you have 2 loops on your hook for the single crochet, and then you're going to grab your grey yarn and you are going to pull through the grey yarn, so that way it looks like this to finish off the single crochet. So just pull your white yarn just to make this tight, and then we are going to be continuing and finishing off our cigarette. So for the grey yarn, we're going to make 6 single crochets for 2 rows, so 12 single crochets. And while working our 12 single crochets, you're going to tuck them underneath. So you do your single crochet as usual, and you have your white and grey yarn, the little kind of scraggly bits here. And then when you're yarning over and pulling the yarn through, you just do that on top of those 2 scraggly bits of yarn. So that way it just goes underneath the piece as you work. So it's kind of like this. And you can kind of see that these 2 are behind the single crochet stitch. Yarn over, you pull through, and you can see they're just kind of tucked behind it. And you can also pull the grey and white yarn just to make them tight and make sure they're not showing through, and then you can just carry on and continue your remaining 11 grey single crochets. If you do not want to tuck these yarns behind as you are making your single crochets, you can also just leave the yarns outside and continue your single crochets, and then use a needle to tuck in once you finish making your cigarette. But if you have tucked them behind, I usually tuck them behind for the first 6 single crochets, and then I cut them off, and then I continue my remaining 6 single crochets. And now I've done my 6 single crochets, I'm just going to pull the white and grey yarn and both of those off, and now I'm going to continue my remaining 6 single crochets. And this is my 5th single crochet. I have one more left, and I'm just going to adjust this just to make sure that the wire is covered properly. Then it's time to make our last single crochet, and here we will be changing to use our orange yarn. So just going to insert my hook, yarn over, so you have 2 loops. And we're going to use the same method when we're changing from white to grey. So you're going to get your orange yarn. One thing I love about hobby yarn is this makes life so much easier. So we have 2 loops, and we are going to add in our orange just to carry it on, and just pull that through. For the orange, this is actually going to be our last row. We're going to alternate between single crochets and a single crochet decrease. So the first stitch is going to be a single crochet. Don't forget to snip off your grey yarn. So 1 single crochet, and then your next stitch is going to be a single crochet decrease. Insert your hook into the first stitch, yarn over, and you pull through. So you have 2 loops on your hook, and then you insert your hook into the next stitch, and then you yarn over and pull through, and you should have 3 loops on your hook, and then you're going to yarn over one final time and pull through all 3 loops. So you're making the 2 stitches into 1 stitch. Then you're going to do another single crochet, and after I'm just going to cut off these scraggly bits here. And then it's time for another single crochet decrease, and then I'm going to slip stitch to the first orange stitch, and then I am going to chain 1, leave a sufficient length of yarn, maybe about 5 to 8 inches, so that we can finish off the end of the cigarette, and then cut off the remaining orange yarn. So I've done my slip stitch, and I'm going to chain 1 and pull this, and then I'm just going to cut that off here and pull that, and that is tight. And now I'm just finally once more adjusting the cigarette, and the cigarette part is mostly done. And now we just need to tuck this end into the cigarette. Get your tapestry needle, and what I'm going to do is, if you look at this here, you can see that there is still some wire kind of showing, and what I'm going to do is just insert my hook through here and through this other part, and just continuously sew through this way and through the other way, just back and forth, just so I can cover this wire here. And the only wire you should be able to see is this long wire that's going to be for the smoke. So I've only done it once, but you can see how the hole is already closing. I'm just going to go back the other way. You can go through as many different directions as you want, just to make sure that wire is covered. The final step is you can tuck this straight into the cigarette, and I'm just going to cut off my excess orange yarn. And our cigarette is finally done, and now it's time to work on the smoke, which is my absolute favorite part. We would be using our 2mm hook and also our white yarn. So to attach the white yarn to the wire, what we're going to do is you're going to put the yarn underneath the wire like this, and you're just going to tie a knot and pull that tight, and you can just pull that all the way to the tip here. And now we're going to make 203 single crochets till we get to the end of the wire, And how I do that is you put your hook underneath the wire and you grab the yarn and you have a loop like that, and then you just go into yarn over and then you chain 1 and just pull that tight. And then now I'm going to make my single crochets. So I put my hook underneath the wire, I grab the yarn and pull that. So now I have 2 loops on my hook, then yarn over and pull through those 2 loops, and that is the first single crochet. It will be a bit fiddly when you do it. It will continue to slide back and forth, but you just have to push it all the way to the end here, and when we are done it will stay in place. But what I'm going to do now is make my 203 single crochets, and I will meet you back here once you get to the end of your wire. So I have finished my single crochets, so we're going to go back to the beginning here, and you have to just make sure all your single crochets are straight, and you are going to pull that all the way till you reach the end of the wire, and you can just pull them very gently just to make sure everything is aligned. So just make sure they're all facing the same way, and just space them out a bit just until you reach the end of the wire. And make sure you keep an eye on this so that it doesn't get all the way to the end and then it starts slipping off. And don't worry if there are a few gaps or if it is a bit flimsy now. When we do the second row of the cigarette, it would help make this more sturdy. Once you get everything to the end here, what we're going to do is when there's like a little bit of wire left, like 1 centimeter, you're going to just curve this wire so that it falls underneath here and the stitches cannot slip off anymore. I use my plier for this, but you can use your hands as this is really soft wire. So I'm going to just take this and just bend it underneath here. The folded edge, you're just going to press that together, and when you are done it should look like this, so that way your single crochets aren't going anywhere. So it should kind of look like this, and you have that all the way here. And now it's time for our final row of our smoke. For the final round of our smoke, we are going to chain 1 and then turn your piece. And now we would be working into this first row of single crochets. So first we're going to start with 3 slip stitches. Then we have 1 single crochet, then 2 half double crochets and 2 double crochets. And with the smoke, you can either follow this exact pattern that I'm using, or you can make up your own pattern. Because it is smoke, it can look however you want it to look. Then we're going to do 2 half double crochets and 5 single crochets. And you can kind of notice from these stitches that we've done, but this is now more sturdy and there are also less gaps in it as well. And then 6 slip stitches and 6 single crochets, and then 5 slip stitches, and then we have 3 double crochets, and then 5 treble crochets. Next is 2 double crochets, and then 3 single crochets, 1 treble crochet, 3 double crochets, 12 slip stitches, 11 single crochet next, 4 half double crochets, 3 double crochets, 7 treble crochets, 3 double crochets, 2 half double crochets,
1 single crochet, 1 slip stitch, 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 4 treble crochets. We're about halfway through the smoke now. 1 slip stitch, 2 half double crochets, 3 single crochets, 7 slip stitches, 2 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 7 treble crochets, 1 double crochet, 4 treble crochets, 1 double crochet, 2 half double crochets, 2 single crochets, 1 half double crochet, 1 double crochet, then 3 treble crochets. We're nearly at the end now. 1 single crochet, 4 slip stitches, 2 single crochets, 5 slip stitches, 7 single crochet, 3 double crochets, 3 treble crochets, 4 single crochet, 2 slip stitch, 2 single crochet, 2 double crochet, 1 half double, 1 double, another half double crochet, just one of them, 1 single crochet, 5 slip stitches, 5 single crochets, 3 half double crochets, 1 treble crochet, and 8 slip stitches to finish it off. And we are mostly done with our smoke. So next what we're going to do is chain 1, pull through, and we're just going to cut off that white yarn. And we're done with our crocheting. And now it's time to weave in our ends, and we've finished the cigarette. So how I'm going to weave in my ends is these 2 white yarns, I'm just going to tie them together. So just with a knot, and I'm going to make 2 or 3 knots. You can make as many knots as you would like. Once you have tied both of these in, you're going to tuck in the ends of the white yarn into the cigarette, so you can just feed it through the mouth of the cigarette right here. And I'm just going to tuck in my ends, and I'll be right back. So I finished weaving in my ends, and this is how it looks at the moment. And this last step is optional. It's if you want to include the heart for the cigarette. So in crocheting the smoke, there is a part that should form the heart, and I will show you how to get to that part. So first of all, just kind of straighten the smoke, so that way all the stitches are facing the right way. Kind of looks like that. This actually looks really cool as well. So you can shape the smoke in whatever way you would like to. It is truly up to you. I just like the heart at the moment because it matches with my Sanji cosplay. For the heart cigarette, the part of the smoke that forms into the heart cigarette is after you pass this. So you have like small bump, a bigger kind of bump, and then you should have this really big bump, a part that goes in and then a really like long big bump. This is the part for the heart. The part that goes in here, you're just going to form into a V like that, and then you're just going to shape the heart. So at the ends of the bumps is where you should kind of curve to form your heart like that. And what I like to do to make sure the heart stays in place, I take this part of the smoke and just kind of wrap it round like that, so that way the heart stays in place and it's not going anywhere. And then for the rest of the cigarette, you can shape it however you want. So I like to kind of go like that and like this, kind of looks like an S. And then you can adjust the heart as well, so it ends up looking like that. And then for the ending, I tend to kind of do the same thing, so kind of squeezing it together like that, just to give it some sort of dimension and make it look more wispy like smoke. And you are done with your cigarette. I really hoped you enjoyed this tutorial. If you do make this cigarette, I would absolutely love to see it, or your version of the cigarette as well. Please tag me on all social media. I use the same handle, which is Tobicrochets. And that is how to make it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, put them down below and I will answer all of them. Thank you so much. Bye.